Hi.
Hi there, how you doing?
I'm okay, darling. How are you? It's so beautiful to be reconnected back in this space and back with another powerhouse energy. It's always really beautiful to be realigned with the connective souls on this journey.
100% the divine feminine. It seems a while ago. I think it's about 3 years since first met you in Manchester at Mark Atwood's event.
Yeah, I love the way
Gosh,
we first met. That was so funny.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
such a funny moment because obviously we'd seen each other briefly online, and then I'm there mid energy work, releasing stuff in the circle, and I was talking to a friend of mine thinking, I'm sure that energy is too big in the middle of the room. And you literally walked up to me like, that energy is too powerful in the middle of this
I
room.
know.
I was like,
That's when I
I'm
thought
so
we
funny.
totally aligned because I first of all keyed into exactly the same place you had. So that was confirmation for me. It's always not, even though we know ourselves, it's always really lovely when somebody else keys into that point. So yeah, that was, and I think you was pregnant then, weren't you?
Yeah, I think like every event in the past couple of years, I've been pregnant.
Yeah.
Literally every retreat that I've run, on
Mm,
every workshop that I've ran, every event I did with Mark, I have actually been pregnant for like the past 3 years. So it's been nice for this year. I gave birth a year ago, and I've had a nice
mm,
year to have a bit of reflection time because obviously I
mm,
was only 7 months postpartum with Phoenix when I got pregnant with Sky. And so it's been quite an intense few years. It's been
mm.
beautiful, but also, it's a lot on what you go through pregnancy, through postpartum, especially if you choose to do it in any different way to the norm. There's a lot of
Yeah,
judgment, a lot of shame.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
difficult. I definitely felt myself feeling a lot more guarded, a lot more unsafe, having to like feeling that reminiscence of having to advocate for myself a lot like we did in 2020. It was like a similar chapter of that for me, having to
Yeah.
feel like I had to explain myself to people and my choices and,
Mm,
the way I chose to have my pregnancies and birth
mm.
was
It's
simply just
interesting.
natural. Yeah. And there
Yeah,
was so much
lovely.
judgment.
I mean, I've just, as you know, just released my third book, The Ascension Code, and one of the chapters I write in that, I don't know if you've had a look at it. I think you mentioned you've had a look at it on
I
Amazon.
had been having a look, yeah.
Written about birth portals and death portals and how to hold the sacred space.
Yeah.
And, I think this is something that's going to really come back to us full circle because, as far as I'm aware, there's no major religion talk about birth portals and death portals.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had a baby a year ago, and I literally held the portal for them, to keep the energy safe.
Yeah.
And it's in my heart space to bring this into public comprehension once again. The indigenous cultures used to do this, but I'm not aware of it being in any kind of mainstream or religion, possibly still in the shamanic, um,
Yeah.
cultures. But to me, it's something that we really need to return safely, keeping the space of the birth portals and death portals. I don't know if you had any sense of that when you had
Yeah,
your
it was a
birth.
huge spiritual experience for me, as everything is in
Mm,
life. As you mentioned, I loved what you said about the birth and death, because before
mm,
ever going into, pregnancy and journeying into that ways, I worked as a carer for about 5 years, and I worked as like a home care nurse, assisting in a lot of end of life times, and chapters. And it was a real honor to be there at them times in life and to be a part of that kind of, not always at the actual time of passing, but a part of that process and afterwards, and a
yeah,
couple of times I was there. But it was genuinely, I have this complex relationship with death. I do think it is, as we all know, that work in this realm, it's not the end. As that's just 101. We know there's so much more. But I guess I do have this human embodiment that has that experience of sadness a little bit, that we have the loss of that version of you and that version of them at that
mm,
time on the earth plane together. And I think that both can coexist. And I had to really like sit with the emotions that both the knowing can exist and the sadness can exist when I've been through the loss. And then journeying into birth, it was a whole different chapter. I knew before I got pregnant, obviously I'd been quite spiritual since being 17 years old. So then when I got pregnant at 26, just after the Moroccan retreat with Mark Atwood, I knew, you know, it was going to be very different. I knew it wasn't going to be the original way. I'd been going to hospital for years with my stomach and not found healing there, and ended up finding my own healing journey. So I knew that that wasn't my safe place, and that wasn't where I put my trust in my body and my own health. So I found a lot of alternative ways from right from the beginning. I never really went to involved in the medical Western system whatsoever. I had a private doctor who was actually very connected in with this whole world that we're in, who was fantastic. Had a couple of private scans for gender and stuff, and that was it. And then I had a home natural birth with no medication, no midwives. I had a beautiful doula who was incredible. She was just amazing. And yeah, I think it's having knowledge and common sense. Like, there's always the issue that when my daughter was born, I had both my babies at home unmedicated, but when she was born, she swallowed some water as she was born, and her breathing was slightly off. So obviously we rang the paramedics and we went and got her checked out at the hospital. Like, it's not ignorance. It's not choosing
Yes.
these choices
Yeah,
out of, oh, I'm just going to not get in the
absolutely.
middle because I'm stubborn. Like, that's
Yeah,
not the case. I had very
yeah.
healthy pregnancies. I had a very healthy birth with my son, no complications whatsoever. Very, you know, like pretty fast time birth. And then I was in bed the same evening with him.
Mm.
You know, with my daughter, it was a little bit longer. So every birth,
Did
every
you,
experience can be different.
yeah, did you communicate with the souls before they came in? Because I certainly did with
Yeah.
mine too. And before my second one came in, he actually came to me in a meditation like 5 years before I got pregnant, when I wasn't even thinking about having a child. And he came and kind of chose me and checked out my energy field.
Yeah.
And this kind of thing sounds a bit off the wall.
Oh, no.
But
I'm
I think
totally,
as we
yeah.
move on, I think this is going to be getting more and more common. And my friend's child that she had last year, I was very much in communication with the
Yeah.
soul before it arrived. And then when the baby came, I knew that the baby was going to not be far off because it stopped communicating with me. But
Yeah.
these kind of things, it's just traversing the realms, isn't it? When you comprehend our multidimensionality and you
Hmm.
recognize that, there are soul entering this realm, it makes sense that we can speak with them before they enter into the birth portal.
Of
And
course.
it's a
Yeah.
wonderful thing, isn't it, to, know that we've got this connection even before birth. And then, of course, again, even after death.
After. Yeah, it's quite miraculous. I'm really glad you brought that up, Gillian, because like you say, I forget that people don't just think
Mm,
these things and know these things, because for me it's just such normal connection, you know, of having them other realmly worlds and connections. And obviously being a medium since being 17, 18, I've had deep connections with the other worlds. And I realised a lot as working as a medium way before getting pregnant, that the children that are coming to us, in the same way we chose our parents, we chose the time on earth, we chose the scenarios, the life lessons we were going to learn as a soul, they've chose that already
yeah,
too. So the
yeah,
souls that you're going to have as your children and do have as your children were already allocated to you, you know, in the soul realm, in that kind of reviewal period, as I call it, after death, before birth. And so they already know that they're coming to you. And that works the same for abortions and miscarriages. They know if they're not staying
yeah.
on earth, they
Hmm.
knew it was just a temporary kind of assignment. I know that sounds a bit non-emotional, but that's what it's like in a soul realm. And
100%.
yeah, I think it's beautiful and miraculous to wonder that I got told. I actually had been me and my partner had been together since we were 11, 12. So we just wasn't energetically open for children. And I knew that, you know, I put that out there for a while because I was so focused on like this role and this mission. And I was reading every day, all day, doing all these things. And there was just no space. I was healing in myself. And then something shifted in me, and I actually thought, oh yeah, maybe now wouldn't be the worst time. And then instantly from that point, I started communicating with a soul. And then I went to Morocco, and 5 different people in Morocco told me I was pregnant. I was not pregnant yet, but I was like, oh shit, it's coming then. So it was a real kind of reflection of what was coming. But
Mm.
ironically, the soul I'd connected to in Morocco was my daughter's spirit. And so I was connecting with her. And originally, this is how it all works. It's like different realms. It's a different world. And she was talking to me, and she was coming first. And then I got pregnant. So that was in September, November time. Then I got pregnant in January, around that time, and was connecting with the same soul. And then I had quite bad sickness, so I get hypergemesis sickness, and I had to go get checked out for my sickness. And on that evening, I had a dream that the soul had changed to a boy. And so did my mother-in-law, who's also a medium. So we was all like, oh, okay, what's going on there? So I wasn't going to get a gender scan at this point because I was so convinced it was the girl because I'd been talking to her and everyone around me, all medium, psychic, everything knew the same girl spirit was talking to her. And then it changed. And so I was like, okay, I'll go for a scan. And then lo and behold, it was a little boy in there,
Mm.
a little phoenix. But ironically, I'd written a song, and one of the last lines in the song, while I thought baby was a girl, I'd written it was like a phoenix from the ashes, I will rise, which ended up being my son's name. And I was pregnant with my son at the time. So the point is, both them souls were communicating with me,
Mm.
deciding which one was going to come
Go
first.
first, yeah.
Yeah. And I
That
was
makes
like,
sense.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was tapping into this one, and he
Mm.
was over here, and I was talking to my
Mm.
little girl's guy. And then, obviously, when Phoenix came, I guess I did go through this like, was I wrong? What was that? Why was I so convinced? And
Mm.
then her little spirit came back not long before I got pregnant. Actually, when I was in America in Indigenous land, that's where her spirit was the most strongest, and that's where she was conceived. So her energy is very
Mm.
Indigenous. And
Nice.
yeah, then I came back home and there she was again. And I was like, okay, so I wasn't wrong. I just didn't understand
Different
timing.
timelines.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it was a strange
Mm.
experience to go through
Yeah.
as a human,
One,
but yeah, it was
yeah,
beautiful.
lovely story that is.
Thank
One
you.
thing I've really noticed for me the last month, I've had two different families contact me to say that the grandchildren are reporting that they're seeing monsters. So I went to see one chap. He lives not too far away, and truly, I met the little girl and I met the land, and it was like a fourth dimensional portal. So, what this beautiful little 2-year-old was seeing is she's obviously very open, and the children coming in now are such wise little things. A lot of them are ascended masters in these tiny little bodies, and they've come in to teach us and to bring in the new world energies, and they're
Fabulous.
so open and beautiful. And so I was able to say to Grandad, yes, I could see what she was seeing, yes. And I told her about Archangel Michael. And
Hmm.
as a granddad and a mum and dad, you can stand in your energy field and say you don't consent to them. You can put the Christ light in the bedroom. I taught him how to grid the house. And what I've suggested is they get an Archangel Michael teddy bear so that the little one um, associates being safe with Archangel Michael teddy and put a gold and blue ribbon around its neck. And then, lo and behold, literally 2 weeks later, another woman contacted me
Yeah.
saying that her granddaughter, her grandchildren, three grandchildren, are reporting seeing monsters. So
Hmm.
I told her exactly the same advice. But this interesting? Literally in the last month, I've had two people contact me, but I've been able to say, do this, do that. You're not the only one. These are
Yep.
precious children. They're seeing the fourth dimension. But another thing about the fourth dimension at the moment, the lower fourth, it's everything's out there, isn't it? There's a lot
Hmm.
going around. I don't know if you've noticed this, Anya, but it was really bad in 2022 with loads of clearing. Then it kind of went a bit quiet,
Calm
and it's
down.
come back. It's come.
I know. It's
Is
like
it the
like a
same
month
for you?
ago. Or like the time of the fire horse going into that shift. I said me and Zia
Yeah.
spoke about, me and Honey have spoke about on a video this past week. We've literally spoke about it on the video this week. The energy
Right.
is insane. I went to a graveyard the other day, and I used to go all the time. I haven't been for a little while, and I ended up going there. And then all of a sudden I'm there and this music started playing, and then it's, is there a soul out there? Someone to hear my prayer in the graveyard. I'm thinking, oh God, it's starting again. And
Uh-oh.
so then I'm clearing, healing, and like you say, my little boy's too. And he's been saying to me lately, Mummy, there's a monster over there. I
Mm.
said, all right then. I said, okay. So what do we say to monsters? And he goes, Chloe, you're not welcome here. And I say, right, shine your light very bright. It's too bright so they can't see when you're shining your light. And he goes, okay, well, shines his light really bright.
That's
But isn't it? I don't want
beautiful.
him to have that fear, like you say.
Yeah.
And a lot of children
Yeah.
are picking up on it. I'm picking up on it as a
Yeah.
medium. There's frequencies, there's energies, there's spirits that
Hmm.
need releasing, there's spirits coming forward far more
Mm.
clearer than they have
Hmm.
been the past few years.
That's
Like,
wonderful that you can manage that with your little boy. And you're saying I do not consent, that's one of my things. But
yeah.
shine your light and you can honor that experience. But like I say, a lot of mums and dads, we've all been
Yeah.
brainwashed. They say, no, don't be silly. There's nothing there, which is very confusing because there is something there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I did actually put a video out on my YouTube, and
Awesome.
I encourage anyone with grandchildren or children that are experiencing this, honor their experience. But it
Yeah.
sounds like, how wonderful that you're just naturally making it, oh, just shine your light, sweetheart,
Yeah.
and not make it a scary thing. I say, don't use scary language. Don't say, here's a teddy bear. And if you're scared, because they might not be scared, but just
Yeah.
introduce it in language that, oh, this is Archangel Michael. He'll make you feel happy. He'll make you feel
Yes.
nice. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's really important to honour the children's experience
I
because,
do.
I've a couple of years ago, I was on Inner Stone Circle in the Lake District, Castle Rig, and I was meditating. I was literally lying in the middle of the stone circle. I don't care what people think. And there was this little boy saying, Mummy, it's magical, this, that, and the other. And the dad chipped in and said, it's an ancient trading post. And it's like you're shutting this child down. This child's a wise being in a
Yeah.
little body. So I think it's wonderful when I hear stories like yourself that you're honouring that experience because
Mm.
I think we've got such a lot to learn from these little ones. And
Well,
of
we
course,
have.
they're already in the crystalline bodies, aren't they? We're in
Yep.
our carbon ones, hence all the ascension symptoms.
Yeah. It's
But
just
they've
so
just all come in on their crystalline bodies. So they're already online, ready to go. And we're catching up with them, aren't we?
100%. And you ever heard that song, that world, hold on? And it sings about you're going to have to answer to the children of the sky. And I was listening to it the other day and I was like, yep, the children of the sky are here. Like they are really, truly here now. And we are not necessarily having to answer to them, but we're having to rise up to meet them there. And,
100%.
I 100%, it's like there's no choice, especially if you're raising them. And I
Yeah.
was a very online child, and so is my brother. I'm 28 now, so it's a small while ago since I was a little one, but I remember so clearly seeing everything, all the
Mm,
lower frequencies, all of
mm,
it, and not having a clue what to do. Being
yeah.
terrified. I mean, I've got like a corridor of blocked out memories I've had to work through of all the layers of things that I saw as a child that
Mm,
stopped me from shining and stopped me from wanting to be seen because I was afraid that my light equaled danger because of how much it did as a child in the other realms. And so it's really important for me that, like, say, my kids know that it's not to be feared. You can shine your light without being afraid of that causing a consequence or being causing attraction or causing danger from the other realms or
yeah.
and so it is really important because it's definitely something my inner child suffered with. And when I see people and parents shutting their kids down, i feel I feel sad that it's a
Mm,
reflection of their own internal dialogue that was being
yeah.
played to them that they're
Mm.
now just regurgitating to their child. But it's really sad that their own inner child is searching for that same
Mm.
validation and magical experience that they never got to have because of their experience that they're now repeating on their children. And
And of
that's the
course,
point in breaking cycles, no?
that's right, exactly, breaking the cycles. But of course, that we're products of our
Of
experience and
course. Yeah.
society. It's been very ill-equipped for,
Hmm.
other dimensional, multidimensional, intergalactic kind of things because nobody's wanted to talk about it. So we can't blame the mums and dads for having that mindset because there's not been much available for them. But, since the onset of self-publishing, for example, on Amazon, anyone can get a book out there.
Yeah.
So the voice is being heard. Whereas, for example, I've got a friend who's a spiritual person, wrote a book through Hay House 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when Hay House had gone rogue. Hay House published 200 copies of the book. That was it, printed 200, owned the rights, and then kept the I better not say, I'll say allegedly, I don't want this to be legal, but allegedly held the rights and then allegedly wouldn't print any more off. So allegedly that made it so that that book was out of circulation. So that was a way of
A little bit
ring-fencing
gatekeeping.
sacred
Mm.
knowledge.
Yeah.
But the wonderful thing now with the internet, we know it's been used for nefarious purposes, but it's also used for good purposes. So people are
100%.
getting the voice out there. This knowledge is out there. And that's one of the things that I'm really keen to share in my new book. I'll just show you it, The Ascension Code, available on
Beautiful.
Amazon. It gives advice on these kind of topics, that we can help bring in
Okay.
this new life, bring in this new dimension. And there are reference points now, so that if mums and dads are thinking, crikey, what's going on, they've got a deeper comprehension of it.
Yeah. And I think that is so important, Gillian. I guess a lot throughout the years, I'm a huge creator. I create all these little projects. I've like yourself, I've written books, but then for me, it's the following through on the action. That's what I'm taking charge of this year. Because a big part of it is what I just mentioned, the fear of being seen. I had all these creations and all these ideas, and there were only certain things, like a couple of the retreats, a couple of the certain things that I actually fully pushed through on because I could see the vision so clearly. And I wrote a book, Light Up Your Life, in 2022, and that was just a basic guide to enlightenment. But the fear of, I don't know, connecting with Amazon, the fear of publishing it out there, the fear of judgment. There were so many things that kind of just stopped me from stepping into my true voice a little bit. So I am really, it's admirationable when you see people like yourself that just kind of push through and shine that light despite what people say and despite the potential judgment and despite the pushback. And it's really beautiful.
Well, thanks for that. But I guess I've got, I don't think I would have been doing it at 28 years old.
I
I
get that. I
think
get
it's
that.
amazing what you're doing. Yeah, I've always been awake like yourself. I've literally never been asleep. I
Yeah.
share some of the poetry I wrote. Um, some of the poetry is in my book as well. And that's
Oh, I
like
love
from
that.
when I was 24,
Yeah.
20, so but I don't think I would have had the wherewithal. Plus, you've got two children. They obviously going to take,
Yeah.
they're the most important thing in the world.
Yeah,
But
there.
yeah, thanks for that.
No, it's beautiful. And like I said, I was having a look through and I truly was sat there and I thought, do you know, when I was going through this journey, I remember, God, years ago now, it were about 10, 12 years ago when I was looking for something, anything, like podcasts or books or anything of ascension and 5D. And like, there were nothing. It didn't exist. There were nothing on that. A few Dolores Cannon things, a few Abraham Hicks, you had the few pioneers of the craft, but really not. If you'd read and watched them, there were not much left to do, And so
Yeah,
to see the accessibility and the wisdom, like you say, that is now being remembered and brought back to us, whether it's through artwork, dance, poetry, authors, whether it's through connecting in community spaces, it is really fantastic. And I'm just so grateful to be sharing it with people that are not about gatekeeping it. There is a lot of
yeah,
people in the spiritual world, and this is in no way to anyone or anything, but I've just seen it a lot, of this, oh, this is mine, or I'm going to charge 10 million thousand pounds for you to access this
yeah,
course. And I just
yeah,
think it's a little bit not what we're trying to create. We're still in a human world. We've still got to receive an exchange of a 3D format,
yeah,
in some way of a physical exchange. But that
yeah.
doesn't need to be gate kept,
No.
and I
Well,
love
I
that
offer a free
out
Zoom
there.
call every month, the Vibe High Club. You can get
Love that.
details of it on my Telegram channel or my um, gillianengland.com. So every month I open a space and we do activations. We do,
Nice.
it's a free space that we can all meet up
Beautiful.
and just,
Beautiful.
share our common experiences. And it's really, that to me, that's like here, have this space if you feel on a frequency. So yeah, it's a good thing to be able to do rather than it all being about pounds, shillings, and pence.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a big thing with worth and, making sure, because I struggled with that for a while, feeling like I was charging too much or I don't want to do that. It was a
Mm,
whole thing for me. I've had to shift that balance between
yeah,
actually stepping into my worth and knowing that there is a value of exchange that is needed. I can't just give, give, give. But also, I'm a big believer of giving because the
yeah,
universe will bring it back,
yeah,
and it's finding the
yeah,
balance in between
yeah.
what works for you. But
So we
yeah, I
still
think,
have our mortgages to pay. I can't
yeah,
go
yeah,
to
yeah, exactly.
I can't say to the bank, actually, I've done some really meaningful sessions and I've cleared
Hmm.
loads of energy on
Yes.
ley lines and I've banished loads of
Got rid of
demons. So
loads of demons. Yeah.
can I have a free month on my mortgage? It's not going to work, is it?
Yeah. No, exactly. And it really did used to frustrate me a little bit when people are like, oh, well, if you're doing this work, it should be for free. And I'm like, would you say that to a surgeon or someone that's,
Yeah,
got this skill that's helping people and doing their best to help people every day. And I'm obviously
Mm,
not equating it to the same level of skill set, but my point is there is such a detail when you are an energy worker, a
mm,
clearer, healer, channeler, reader,
mm,
any of the spiritual realms. And that's in any different role, but specifically right now because it's misunderstood and there's not a lot of education, there's not a lot of research. You can't go study at university and there's a couple of places, but it's very human. There's not that deep knowledge and remembrance of these other
mm.
realms to the level of the quantum realms that sometimes we are accessing. This is completely new territory for a
Yeah.
lot of us, and we're just kind of figuring it out as we go and
Mm,
translating it as we go. And that's why it's important to listen, watch, and connect with many different people doing this, because you'll resonate with each different person's interpretation, potentially of the same message, but in their own different frequency, which may
yeah.
resonate or not resonate with you. And that's why I love that we're all doing his own little piece of the puzzle, because that's what it's about. This is what kind of ascension is right now, I guess, is
Yeah.
bringing our magical piece of the puzzle and
Yeah.
creating this new picture.
Mm. Well, I've got a saying, 100%, I agree with that, 100%. I've got a saying, know thyself, love thyself. It's the key
Mm.
to ascension. Because yeah, I talk about multidimensionality. When we fully comprehend the vastness of our multidimensionality, then, we're on the way to being in the fifth dimension, aren't we?
Exactly,
And
exactly.
that I do actually explain that in the book as well, in quite a um, easy to understand way, because these concepts, people, you hear it, don't you? Multidimensionality, this, multidimensionality. There's these certain buzzwords going around, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's just good to just go back to basics and explain what they are,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, and what does that look like? Like you say, the word multidimensional, obviously it's kind of what it says on the tin, but in the same sense, it means so much.
Mm,
It's the parallels, the past,
mm,
the fractals, the oversoul,
hmm.
the different
Yeah,
aspects of self,
timelines.
the different aspects of this
Mm,
human, inner child, inner teen, higher self,
yeah,
all the different
yeah,
facets and how they all concurrently exist all at the same time in the same
yeah,
realm. There is no past, present, future. It's all different locations in the same dimensional place. And God, I find that stuff so invigorating. And like you, I have a Tuesday night group. It's like a buy me a coffee thing, so it's more donation based. But yeah, it's small, but I love it like that. Like I won't
mm,
change it. I've been told many times I might charge more and expand it, and I'm like, I like it like
yeah,
this because it's just real and raw and fresh, and
mm,
it's just whatever's going on that week we're going to work on and tune into. We
mm,
might do a bit of reading, channeling, healing, meditation, talking, whatever's going on.
mm,
And last week we did it all about parallels and past lives, and bit of a question, but I thought maybe this is relevant to the multidimensionality. One that was sticking in my mind all week was we have as past lives, which are in essence, you have the oversoul, the fractals of the oversoul. We are one of them. Fractals of the oversoul, probably a bigger chapter, fractal, because we have so much integration. Then you have, so they're past lives. So then you have parallel lives. And my question is, do they exist in the background always? Or do they only exist when you put your intentional frequency on them to ask a question? Because I don't tap into mine, all these parallel lines all the time going on. And do they exist like just because you create a different choice? Are they always just like running in the background? Or is it a
mm,
sense of both? They are kind of running in the background and then more
mm,
amplified when you put
mm.
your intentional frequency onto them when you need to learn a lesson. What's your
Yeah.
perspective on that?
Well, my perspective, it's a very interesting thought. Mine is, like I help people, I offer like past life regression, for
Yeah,
example. But what I'm always very keen to say is, what if I don't just would open a space up to kick around having a nosy around somebody's past lives or parallel
yeah,
lives, because I can't see what benefit that would make. So I'm
no,
always very keen to set the intention of what does your higher self wish you to see?
yes.
So, what's the point in just kicking around watching something? It's like watching a
No, it needs to
meaningless
be something in
Netflix.
your highest
It's
good.
got
Like, is
to
it
be
going to benefit
something.
you?
Yeah.
Yes,
So I would say if you're wanting to look at parallel lives, what purpose is it serving you? And does
yes.
your higher self feel like it's necessary? So I always set a clear intention. What does your higher self wish you to know from this exercise? And then
Mm.
it kind of guides you and you're not wasting time just delving into stuff that actually isn't going to serve you and isn't going to
Yes.
serve humanity or your soul path. So, I'm not over interested in my parallel lives, if I'm being honest.
Exactly. No, exactly. That's exactly the conclusion we came to. I
Oh,
totally
is
agree.
it?
Yeah, because it was like
Okay.
there's no, so it felt like to me they don't have that same soul resonance. So your past
Mm,
lives have an actual fractal of your soul. And so
mm.
they are like their own. So that might be Jim over there living a part of his life. So it's not Anya, it's not Gillian. It might be a completely different human, but it's still an aspect of your soul's
Yeah,
frequency. Whereas a parallel feels like more, if I were to relate it to anything, it's almost like an NPC. It's not got the same,
absolutely.
yeah, it's not got the same
Absolutely.
conscious connection and
Yeah,
resonance. We can't have a million of Anyas running
yeah,
around with this knowledge. Jesus,
yeah,
we'd all be burnt out. It needs to be, I am this most connected version in this
yeah.
lifetime. And the reason I even got to this years ago was because my granddad died quite abruptly when I was 4. And so for years I was asking, what would my life look like if my granddad didn't die? And
Right,
finally, when I was about 20, oh, they showed me. And I did not like it. I was like, this is,
right.
I don't know who this is, what this is, but this is not my life. And I remember
Mm,
looking around thinking, whoa, it's just, there was no resonance at all. It wasn't me. It didn't feel like me. She
mhm,
didn't, her
mhm,
energy was not right. Everything, the
mhm.
people, all of it. And so, yeah, after that, I stopped questioning that question. I never asked that question again. And I
Well,
was shown a lesson. And that's when I thought,
yes.
these are lessons, these are reflections of
Yeah,
choices, and these are lessons of like a interpretation of the reflection of choice and what that
yeah.
looks like. But I don't think they have soul frequency that gives them the
Yes.
conscious thought.
100%. When you were saying that, what came to me was it's like a pseudo life. It's not
Yes.
like a real
Yes.
life. So when you said NPC, I was
Yeah.
already on that vibe. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not too interested in that. But like I say, if ever I'm facilitating a session looking into somebody's past lives, it will always be what's serving the highest and best and
Yeah.
serving what the highest and best and their oversoul wishes to see. So I think if you sort of use that as perimeters when you're doing that, it gives you a better framework, really, a more coherent framework. And
Yeah. It's
it's
like setting a
honoring that
frequency.
and
Mm.
it's honoring that sacred, this is sacred energy. We don't just want to be using it as a party trick or
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
I'm fairly boundaried like that. And,
Oh, I
you know,
agree.
people, I'm a psychotherapist by my normal trade, if you like, if I could ever be classed as normal. But we learn about not creating dependency on people. You can't get dependent on your therapist, that sort of thing. And I'm very mindful of that with my spiritual work, my mystic
Yeah.
healing therapy. It's very, you've got to have it always for the highest and best.
100%. Because, like you said, the whole point, I think that's why I shifted from being a reader for a while, because a lot of the energy and the like the placing of a power is on you, and I didn't like that dynamic. For me, it's like
Mm,
I don't want to be the person giving you all the answers. I want you to find your own inner voice, your inner power, that inner fire. That for me is why I even do what I do, because I love
mm,
watching their fire reconnect, that light, that
mm,
spark back in their eyes, and feel like, oh my God, yeah, this is who I am. Like that for
mm,
me is the whole reason. And so
mm.
shifting from being a reader into more, like you say, I kind of call it like multidimensional therapy, because it's a bit like
Yeah.
whatever they need in that session,
Mm,
whether it's, healing, releasing, activation, remembering, subconscious reprogramming, whatever aspect is coming up, it's what's in the best interest. And I think that's a really beautiful way to put it. Like whether that might be sometimes a little bit of a releasing, and we might need to kind of get stuff out that's been stuck
mm,
there a little bit, and we're going to go there, but
mm,
I'm going to guide you right back up to it, and we're going to
mm.
be in a safe place throughout. And I think it is important, space holders, sacred space holders, because when we're asked, like you, Gillian, I'm sure when you're asked like what is it you do, not just the human job, the overall, it's like, well, what are the words? Because there's so many different
Yeah.
facets, and what you might
Yeah.
do on one person to another to another to another
Yeah.
is completely different, because it's what they
Yeah.
need. I think that's why
Mm,
for me I love that sacred space holding, because you're space
mm.
holding. Sometimes you
Yeah.
can in the supermarket with someone space holding because they're having a whole
Yes,
wobbly and you're just
absolutely.
holding space, you know. And
Mm,
so there,
mm,
it's just important to remember that we're all, even regardless if you're not a spiritual practitioner watching this, you will be, if you're connecting to this, if you're vibing with this frequency, you will be contributing to the ascension in the most powerful ways, whether that's
mm,
by walking on the land and activating it, whether that's by smiling in a room and raising the frequency up and
mm,
creating that vibration. You'll be
mm.
activating, ascending yourself and those
Yeah.
around you by being you in your authentic frequency. And so just keep doing that. Don't try to be anything other than what feels natural, right, flowing, you know, the most connective to you. And from
Mm,
that, you will rise. It's
mm,
just having the confidence to
mm,
shine. I had to
mm,
go through that little confidence to be seen and to
mm.
shine.
And every effort is seen and every effort's acknowledged, even if it's a tenuous effort. And
Yeah.
you know, every time you link your mind to spirit, you're adding to the pot of spirit, you're adding to the ascension energy. You know, a message I say that, you know, spirituality isn't something we do on Sundays or Fridays or when we go to our yoga
Yeah.
class at 7 o'clock when we light a candle. You can literally be linked to spirit all day. You
All
can be
day.
sat in your office and you can see that pot plant in the window and you can send it love. You
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
sat in your office and look out to the sky and think, oh, thank you, what a beautiful day. You know, all of that kind of thing. It's a possibility. We've got far more access to this wonderful world if we just attune to it.
Yeah.
And you know,
Intention.
I have people say to me, I wish I could hear spirit, Gillian. And yet they spend literally all day on 4D fear porn videos. And then they wonder why they don't hear spirit loud and clear. Well, you know, it's a frequency thing. If the more you can spend with your frequency attuned to the Great Spirit, nature, what
Hmm.
have you, then you're more likely to get the inner voice speaking clearly. You know, I say your greatest ever resource is your direct connection to source, and that is so true. But
It
if you're
really.
spending your entire time on social media looking at the horrors and dread out there, then
Hmm.
your frequency is going to be matched to that because you're energizing that. You're not energizing the Great Spirit. And
Yeah.
of course, at the moment, you know, as we're in these last days of this paradigm, there's so much loose farming going on, isn't there? You know, so much fear out there because the dark forces have only got the fear. They've got no other access to any power. So they're creating all this fear because it is literally like Monsters Inc. The energy.
Really
They
true.
literally need to this energy, the fear, the oh my God, have you seen this? And oh dear, are they going to do that? They love that. They love it, and they love the divide and separate. And that's the only thing they've got left. So the more you can detach from that, I'm not saying walk around with blinkers on your head. I'm
No,
not
yeah.
saying that, but it's where you put your focus, isn't it? If
Hmm.
primarily your focus is on, you know, the great spirit and the nature, like yesterday, you know, we're not immune to it, are we? You know, sometimes people think if we're spiritual, we're immune to it. We still have all the nonsense everybody else has because we are everybody else. But you know, yesterday what I did, I went out and I saw this beautiful little foal
Nice.
and then the lambs because I get out whenever I've got a break, I'll be out in nature and
Mm.
just love it because whilst ever I'm watching a little lambs dancing in the field, where's my frequency? It's on that 5D. I might have all the other stuff going on, but for that moment, you're in that frequency, aren't you?
I
So,
love
you know,
that.
switch off the fear porn.
Yeah, it's a big thing right now, and a lot in the masculine, and not meaning that in a disrespectful way, but I think it's being targeted at them because they are really rising right now, and so there's a lot of like targeted. I would say I'm a little in that younger peak, and there's a lot of men my age thinking like, is there going to be a call up like other countries? Are we going to be conscripted? Is there going to be all these things? And there's a lot of fear going on right now, and I have to remind them like, listen, this is not the timeline we're going into. I know it can look that way. I know it can feel that way, but truly that time already passed a long time ago. This is just a movie that's playing out of what has already happened in the spiritual realms. The battle and the WAR for your soul for your ascension already went down in 2020 and 2021. Like, listen, we already passed the danger point. Right now, we're just allowing other people to have that, what's the word, kind of integration of that knowledge, integration of that awareness. If you weren't in the spiritual realms experiencing that battle going on, then you don't know what you don't know. So now you're knowing what you know, but through a different, relay. And that's what that's how I perceive it anyways, because we already knew all this, we've seen all this, we watched it all go down, we experienced it, we were a part of it. And so why would we need to go back there? It feels like for us, we're just, like you say, it is sitting back out of it. And that's not saying not have empathy, not have awareness, not have understanding and connection, that into some way this is real for people, to some way this is a real thing, to some way people are hurting, people are dying. And I get that. And there is empathy there as a human being to other human beings. I feel it and I get it. But also then as a spiritual being living in a human experience, I see it on a different timeline too. And so I just kind of let all things coexist and I don't tap into the fear but the nature is very important. I've just recently moved in December, and I really did not like where I lived before. And now I live in nature. Like, I live in this lovely house, and on the back of my house there's sheep fields, and there's just sheep outside my kitchen and bathroom window. And obviously I've got 2 kids, 3 dogs, 4 cats, and a business and a house and all these. So it's crazy. And some days I just look out at the sheep and I just think, what a time to be alive.
But while you're
just
watching those sheep, you're in that beautiful energy, aren't
exactly,
you? And
exactly.
just getting back to what you said about the young people worrying about getting, conscripted and stuff like that. Well, a few years ago, 5 years ago, I channeled Serapis Bay, and he said that the ascension window was now open, and he described the the sun rising, breaking through the horizon. This is what he was saying 5 years ago. He said the sun has broken up over the horizon, and as the sun rises, it shines its light. When it's dark, you can't see the river, the rock, the tree. It's all dark. But then as the sun rises, you start seeing the colour in everything, and it lights everything up. Well, we're in this position, he says, where you're seeing all the dark. It's all been hidden, but the sun rising is showing up the darkness. But what he also said is, when you're worrying about timelines and people are worrying that this is going to happen, that's going to happen, he said, it's the universal law. The sun cannot then just suddenly disappear back behind the horizon. We're in the ascension. We're in the ascension dawn. The dawn is upon us. So we're rising, the sun's rising. And this was 5 years ago. And, I think we're not quite at peak flow yet. We're not midday. But as more of the light is revealing the shadows, this is what everyone's seeing now. We've known the rock, the tree, the rivers there, i.e. the dark stuff, to correlate it to that. But other people haven't, and as the light shone on it, this is why it looks so terrible out there. But it's always been there. It's being revealed. But that was reassuring to know we are cemented on the
I love that
timeline, and there's no going back. So we can allay everybody's fears. And I'm always saying in my psychotherapy clinic, because a lot of people are feeling really hopeless right now, and I'm just saying, carry on, keep going. We are, and most people that come to my normal clinic are not spiritually aware, but I'm saying, keep going no matter what you're feeling. It can't last forever. And I'm telling them that life's going to get better, and it really is. And it's not just hopium. I know it. I can feel it.
I agree. And I've also felt that hopelessness, specifically around 2020, 21. I remember though, one day I was literally sat crying in front of the telly, because at that point I didn't feel connected to anyone or anything, I felt so misunderstood and so alone and so consumed by everything that were going on around me, all the dark stuff I was finding out. And obviously I knew a lot of it, but then you knew deeper, deeper, deeper. And it was a big revelationary time for a lot of us. And this song came on the YouTube, Iron Sky by Paolo Nutini. And if those that know that song will know, I ended up singing it at Mark Atwood's Manchester Day
You've got a
Live.
beautiful voice.
Oh,
Honestly,
thank
you've
you.
got an amazing voice. My heart, and I've got goose pimples when you spoke, the soul
It's my
connection
little
through you. Yeah,
activational point. It's
beautiful.
definitely a spiritual channel of some forms. I've had that. It's been like that since I was a kid. So it's definitely a little gift that I got given to share the music and frequency. But yeah, I ended up hearing that on telly I'd heard that song before, but I'd not listened to it before. And I listened to every word. And one of the biggest things, and we'll rise and we'll rise. And he kept saying it. And it was like through, being spoon fed and this false humanity, all these things. And it's like, and he kept saying it will rise. And there were tears sobbing down my face. But this moment of pure hope, like actually, no, we will rise. We will get through this. There is hope. And then obviously after that, Mark and Morocco and Manchester and then Honey and the retreat. So everything's just snowballed after that in the most fantabulous new word, fantabulous of ways. I'll go with that. Yeah. So, but yeah, I remember hearing that song, and that's a real anchor moment for me
Mm,
of the shift from
mm,
hopelessness to hope, and that
yeah,
song was a real pinnacle point for me of changing that because it was a reminder. You just
mm,
got to hold on. That's one of the lines he sings.
absolutely,
You've just got to hold on. You've
absolutely.
just got to hold on, and
Yeah,
it stuck with me. Always stuck with me,
yeah,
and even now when I hear it.
yeah,
I'm like, you just got to hold on. It's all right. You got it. And singing it
yeah.
live with all them people, it were very
Mm,
powerful. I'm very grateful for that
very.
opportunity to share that with others as well. I
No,
have
it
got
was
the
a
YouTube. I'll send you it somewhere.
it was a beautiful frequency. One of my poems, one of the lines is hold the light in the deepest, darkest night. When you
Oh,
don't know what to do, remember God will see you through.
I love
And it
that.
carries on like that. But so what have you got coming up then? Have you got any more retreats, any more
Yeah, we've got
babies?
quite a lot. No more babies for a while. No, I've got two little beans and they're doing really well. But we've got a workshop day coming up in West Yorkshire in June. We're just confirming the venue dates. We've had to change venue, so that will be in mid-June somewhere. So please feel free to join us, Gillian. That'd be awesome. If not, we can keep
Whereabouts
it.
are you?
Well, I'm in West Yorkshire in like Leeds, Bradford
Oh,
area.
right,
Kind of
that's not that far from
yeah,
me.
so
About
we
an
can
hour and
have
a half.
and I can always, we can travel up and have
Mm.
a day as well, but that would be
Oh,
lovely if you could
lovely.
come over. So we're having that's on recoding and reparenting your inner child. So I've been doing a lot of work on nervous system regulation, reparenting myself, obviously being a parent now, reparenting all my old programs and patterns that I experienced as a child that were surfacing in my own triggers as being a parent. So, and not just in life in general. So I'm doing a lot of recoding the subconscious mind and actually consciously doing that, consciously, subconsciously reprogramming. That's kind of how I've worked it out because I could not do that on myself. I could do it to other people.
Yeah.
I didn't understand how to do that level of deep subconscious work on
Mm.
myself. So I kind
Hmm.
of created a technique to integrate the subconscious reprogramming on a conscious level. So it sounds really wordy. It's not. It's really easy. And it's more just about reconnecting and reparenting. That's why I've reworded it. So that's in July. We've got the Serenity and Surrender retreat with Z and Lucy, which is going to be all about regulation, connecting, empowerment, rising. That's in Greece in September. So I'm so excited for that.
Nice,
And then we've got like three more retreats coming up next year. We've got a wild
nice.
pregnancy retreat, where the wildlings wander. We've got some little kiddie community events, with the families. So that's going to be great. And a wild woman rising event in the summer in Spain. So
Nice.
we've got some really good things coming up. We've
Very
got books
good.
coming out, cards coming out, everything. It's all coming out at once, but it's good. It's exciting. And I'm going to have to get myself a copy of your book, Gillian, because I was reading it on Amazon, like I said, and it sounded bloody awesome. So I think I would like them.
I'll put the link below. I'm about to do the audio copy on my website,
Nice.
gillianengland.com as well, because some people prefer it on audio.
To be fair, I am an audio gal because I'm ADHD on the go. So I'm always
Yeah,
headphones in the car, listening
yeah,
on the go. And so that
yeah.
really, that would work for me fantastic. I don't get much time to sit down at the moment. So it would be
Well,
nice. Yeah,
my other books are available on audio on my website,
check them out. I
gillianengland.com.
really am going to check them out. I've been looking for
Yeah.
something new to listen to. So sounds
So
awesome.
I've just decided this year I'm going to do some more of my energy work because my primary role actually is earth energy. But
Yes.
that earth energy healing, I go around doing lots of stuff, but it's quite private. I just go on my own and do it. So it
Yeah, that's
looks
the
like
thing.
I'm fairly quiet. But you know
Hmm.
what you were saying about being in the public. I was just an energy worker for years. Well, I say just,
No, but
and
it
then of
feels like
course
that. I get
I
that.
yeah, I invited Mark, didn't I? Mark Atwood to
Hmm.
Derbyshire. Then he filmed it. Then all of a sudden I'm in the public eye. So it was a bit of a baptism of fire for me. I was just minding my own business, if you like, wandering around. But yeah, I've decided I'm going to do some more, get back into that.
I would love to do some energy work together,
Oh,
go
would you?
someplace. Oh, I'd love that because, like you,
Yeah.
for years that were a massive role of mine. Clearing, demon clearing,
Mm,
releasing, spirit
mm.
releasing, portal opening and healing,
Yeah.
and angels bringing in, land activating, grid activations. And you
Yeah.
can't explain that to people. There'll be a lot of time I'm sat with people doing this
Mm.
work, not telling them what I'm doing because they think I
Exactly.
was nuts.
100%. Yeah.
Only just recently that we can talk to people like this. Like I've
Mm,
got two friends recently that are very opened up and they've started doing the work with me. And it's
mm.
so different to not be just doing it on
Yeah.
my own and they're joining in.
Yeah.
And, I've done some work with Z before and obviously Honey. And, it is different for me working with people, but I'm really enjoying it at the moment. I'm enjoying, like you say, just connecting a little bit more with the land again
Mhm.
in a way that feels
Mm.
a little bit more empowered because we're coming back with all this wisdom, knowledge,
Yeah.
recalibration of the body. So yeah,
Mm.
working together. Let's go to some.
That'd be good.
Yeah, there's a Druid's temple near here that I went to just as I was pregnant with Phoenix in 2023 at the beginning of January. And it was really funny energy. I did a big clearing, but I think it's time for a revisit. So maybe
Oh,
we could
really?
go, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we could go and film it and do some,
That'd
some
be good.
really
Definitely.
fun. I would
Yeah.
love,
Brilliant.
let's get
Yeah.
that arranged.
That'd be great. Definitely do that. I've noticed now that a lot of the sites are calling to be reactivated. I did a lot of clearing energy,
Yes.
but now they're telling me to put things back online.
Hmm.
So I'm activating these sites. People think they're Neolithic sites. They're not. They
No,
galactic landing pads.
but
But
go.
that's for a whole different podcast, I think.
Right, a whole different time. No, but I love that. Just one last thing to leave people on. If you're wondering what we're on about and doing grid energy work, simply sometimes, if you don't know what you're doing, ask the angels to come in to clear the land and to replace or to allow what was lost back in. So a lot
Yeah.
of the time, the best way I can explain it is it's like the land's being bound in like barbed wire, and that's meant that the magic, the angels, the whatever might be there, the giants, the fairies, all the little elemental beings that live on that land and help the land and love the land, have almost like been bound from neither not being able to access it, not being able to use their magic, or their magic being siphoned off for dark portals. So a lot of the time our presence can lift that up and like almost open up clogged pipes, water pipes, and allow this water to flow through and send the energy. And you can always do that. Just put your hands on the earth and imagine light being sent underground through the water pipes all around the area, and that can just clear it.
100%. And also to add to what Anya said, if you go on gillianengland.com,
Yeah.
I've got a free protocol which is Restore,
Nice.
Refresh, Re-Energize, which
Yeah.
literally helps you to set a sacred space so that you're doing this in a very sacred, honored space. There's a PDF protocol you can print out, or there's even an audio. So some of my community
Nice.
literally go to the stone circles,
And listen
listen
to
to
that.
me bleeping on about, and they do it with me so
That's
that it's
beautiful.
sacred energy, and we're doing it in a very safe and connected
Protected. I
space.
was just going to say, you're keeping that
Protected.
space
Yeah,
protected.
I
That's
do.
really
So
beautiful. Yeah.
gillianengland.com for the Restore, Refresh, Re-Energize
Love that.
protocol. It's free, available to
Awesome.
everybody. I've also got another free protocol on there, which is reverse the energetic impacts of vaccines. So that's another one on gillianengland.com, and that's again in a PDF and audio because a lot of people have been asking me that. So they're my free
That's
offerings, and of course
fantastic.
my
Well,
Vibe High Club as well, which you can
they
find
sound
on my
awesome,
website.
Gillian.
Wonderful. It's been so lovely to connect, and I think it's time pay a visit up to Yorkshire because
Yeah,
I'm
we'd
only an
love
hour
to
and a
have
half,
you.
2 hours away.
Yeah, but I
Everyone
was
thinks I'm
literally
a
talking.
northerner.
No, I was thinking this the other day. I was literally telling my friend the other day, I was saying, oh, I'm chatting to Gillian next week. And she went, I've seen her on TikTok. I said, oh, I met her years ago in Manchester. She's lovely. And I said, I might ask her if she wants to meet up and we can all go somewhere and have a little energy day. And she went,
I'd love
oh, I
that.
love that. That's what she was saying. And I said, I'll see if she fancies either a trip up or we can meet. So, yeah, I think this
Yeah.
could be a little thing we could
Here
maybe do
for it.
regularly every few, couple of weeks,
Yeah,
couple of months, we could connect in. And 'cause this is a point
absolutely.
now, I'm really being called to not just connect online and around the world, but to
Mm,
connect locally too and create this
person.
sense of like community in our space too. So that would be really great for me. And, I
Mm,
think for all of us just connecting in.
yes.
So I'm looking forward to that. Sounds great.
That'd be great. And I always meet up at Arbor, on this solstice as
Yes.
and I always hold a sacred ceremony. I think the last one we had 22 people and we were just
Beautiful.
channeling all the light from source into the land because there's the nine ley
Yes.
lines there. So, there's all those sorts of things. I think there's a call for that now. People are more
Beautiful.
recognizing it. So anyway, it's been absolutely
Awesome. Oh, it's
wonderful.
been
We will
beautiful.
definitely catch up again soon. And yes, we'll be in touch with regard to meeting up.
Yeah, you might see us out exploring the Yorkshire countryside doing some energy work.
Yes.
Be exciting.
If I see a huge vortex, I'll just think, oh, it's Anya.
You'll know where we are. There'll be dragons, there'll be angels, and there'll be a little fiery fairy in between.
All
Thank you,
right,
Gillian.
lots of
It's been
love. Take
beautiful.
care.
See you,
Bye.
darling. Bye bye.
Bye.